r/AskReddit by Redmond Dts. People who left their partner the day of the wedding. What happened? We called it the non-wedding. It was a very small backyard do, and when we showed up, a relative of the groom ushered us out back and whispered that the wedding was off, but they had all this food and to help ourselves. Apparently just that morning the groom found out that the bride banged the stripper at her bachelorette party, but his family said they'd already spent all the money on the party, so they'd just tell people when they arrived. It was one of the most awkward experiences of my life, because the groom just sat dejectedly in a chair while people tried to cheer him up. We ate a little out of obligation, and then got the hell out of there. I once worked at a hotel where a wedding was cancelled just a few hours before it was supposed to happen. The only information we got was the manager telling us that the father of the bride let him know that it was off, but only said, "There's no way she's marrying that fucking son of a bitch." We guessed it was a bachelor party incident, but never found out for sure. I also did this when I was in college. We had one large reception that was pared down from 10 or so servers to 2, and I was one of the ones who worked it. The groom had a burst appendix the day before the wedding, and they did get married anyway in his hospital room, and decided that the reception would be family only. Someone who worked there knew him and said he almost died. My cousin's backyard shotgun wedding. She changed her mind because they got in a fight that morning. My uncle still made barbecue and it just turned into a typical family hangout. They got married the next weekend anyway. Not a very exciting story. They are still married like 22 years and 3 kids later though, so that's something. Knew someone who got married, then moved into her parents' basement. A couple of days later, her dad heard, through the floorboards, his new son-in-law abusing his daughter. He promptly kicked him out and annulled the marriage. A colleague of my husband's texted him about a week before the wedding, saying something cryptic like, "If I'm in Key West on Friday, the wedding isn't happening," so he was clearly having thoughts prior to. But social media showed that the rehearsal dinner happened the night before the wedding, and he was there, so we figured he had gotten over it. We had family in town and weren't planning to attend the wedding anyway, but my husband texted a congratulatory message later on the day of. Guy replied from Key West. He did not show for the ceremony. His excuse was that she wouldn't sign the prenup. The reality was that he was already seeing someone else. My friend did this like 20 some years ago. She was engaged to a guy from a very well-off family. The wedding was in California, but they were living in Seattle. Very posh, very expensive. But the mother-in-law was always a bitch to her. Right at the beginning of the reception, the mother-in-law came up and said some nasty things to her in whisper, thinking she would just take it again. She lost it, families got involved, and she ended up on a plane back to the Pacific Northwest that night. Her family had already started moving her things out of the apartment that evening. Never spoke to him again. It was my sister, and it wasn't the day of the wedding, but on the honeymoon cruise she found his heroin fentanyl shoot-up kit. Needles, dope, all that shit. I would say no way she didn't know, but I've been there. My stepbrother was the picture of health. We were on a family weekend, and I found his kid hidden in the closet while looking for something. My brother went to this engagement party. Everything was great, nothing out of the ordinary. Wedding comes around 3 months later. He shows up, and it's a totally different bride. Same groom, same date, same invite, just new bride. No explanation. My cousin shaded this. There was a sitting area out of the way, out of sight, behind a grove of trees at the wedding venue. Her and the bridal party and photographer decided to take the stone path that led behind and around it for some pretty photos. They all walked around the corner to the groom getting a BJ from the best man right as he popped off. They didn't notice the group of people standing there in shocked horror because they were a ways down. She kicked him and his family and friends out, and we still had a party afterwards. She met her now husband at the reception. He was the DJ. According to him, sex at weddings, where the person isn't the future spouse, is more common than people realize. This happened to a friend. He found out she was cheating on him and still was on the morning of the wedding. That's when he found them together in a separate room for the wedding party. My sister-in-law called off her wedding 1.5 months out because she was going through a deep depression. It was so tough, but her fiancé understood that it wasn't because she didn't want to marry him, it's that she couldn't find any joy in life at that stage, and it was the wrong time to get married. They are still together and have 2 kids now and are very content with life. I have a worse version of this. Had a family member get married and they got pregnant afterwards. Seemed all good. The day of the birth, the dude decided he didn't want to be a father and left to never be seen again. Never even saw the kid. My friend did this, just turned off his phone and didn't show up at the ceremony. When I asked him about it, he said, "Well, I just woke up that morning and thought to myself, nah, fuck this." I don't know if this counts, but 6 years ago in March, my fiance and I decided to postpone our wedding. The weekend the wedding would have been, he left me home alone to go spend the weekend with his parents. We lived an hour away from our parents, didn't have cell service or Wi-Fi, no landline. His parents posted all over Facebook that they were celebrating him not getting married to me and were celebrating his new girlfriend, a friend of ours he constantly told me not to worry about. My mom screenshot all the Facebook posts, drove an hour out to where I was, and said, "Hey sister, what are we going to do here?" I took a hot shower and cried, then we packed all of my stuff up and left a letter to him on the dining room table with the ring. Later he texted me asking, "Is this what you really want?" I replied saying, "Nope, but it's what I need." My wife's family has a story from the early 1900s in which a bride and groom had courted mostly by mail. The day of the wedding, bride got cold feet. The family was trying to figure out what to do when the bride's sister piped up and said, "I'll marry him." The groom thought about it for a few minutes and decided he was in. The wedding proceeded as if nothing had happened, and they allegedly were married 50+ years and produced a big happy family. Not me, but I was the best man. Incredibly weird vibes from the very religious family of the bride the whole time. My friend the groom is Muslim and black. Her family was always nice to him, but would say shit like, "Well, with whoever you end up marrying," to her in front of his face, even after they were engaged. She literally just never showed up, neither did her nor her entire family, and they never RSVP'd yes. They haven't spoken a word to each other to this day. She married some blonde dude within 6 months, and lives in. Drumroll please. Rural Alabama. Obligatory not me, but bride's best friend decided the wedding was the perfect time to announce that bride was secretly pregnant. Problem is, groom was religious and saving himself for marriage, and bride agreed to it. They hadn't had sex before. Turns out she had been cheating for most of the relationship because of this. I believe she planned on waiting until after they had sex and telling him the child was his. Turned into a very interesting situation where groom's parents were very upset, thinking he broke his promise of abstinence to them. Bride's parents were celebrating the pregnancy. Bride and groom both had looks of absolute horror. Not the day of, but my mom's first marriage lasted 13 days. He was mentally unstable, locked her up in the apartment and beat her. She was eventually able to get his mother to rescue her and take her to a shelter. My dad left his bride at the altar. It wasn't my mom, it was years before. From what he told me, the relationship was quite toxic and got worse during the wedding preparation. My dad apparently warned her that he was very close to calling everything off. She told him he didn't have the guts to do it. So when the civil agent asked him if he was willing to take the lady as a spouse, he said no. She, rightfully so I would say, was enraged, and her family tried to beat up my dad, who swiftly left with his best friend. They still got married a few months later on, but got divorced pretty quickly. I don't know if this counts, but my grandma killed her first husband on their wedding day. She was 15, it was arranged, and divorce wasn't an option, so she was like, alright, murder it is. I'm related to a woman who was unfortunately left after the wedding. Dude was marrying her for citizenship or something, and just disappeared into the wind a few weeks after they got married. Wouldn't that be a clear cause for annulment, and so no citizenship? Maybe, I'm not 100% on the details. She's married to a new guy now though. I know of someone who left from the honeymoon. They were in Italy and something happened. She was apparently very scared and slept with her passport hidden under the pillow so he wouldn't take it from her. That was more than 20 years ago and she's moved on. I never did find out what had happened. Since then I moved away and lost touch. Not me but my best friend. I was set to be his best man at his wedding. While I was organizing his bachelor party, I reached out to some of our old friends to invite them. One of them who showed up we hadn't really seen in like 10 years and asked who he was getting married to, and I told him. And he was just silent for a minute and said, bro, I literally just hooked up with her a couple weeks ago. I thought it was a joke, but he sent me a pic. Hardest fucking conversation I have ever had to have. And it was only like 12 hours to the wedding. I should have left but didn't. He chose to not spend our wedding night with me as he cared more about doing drugs with his friends and staying out until 5 AM. I was 2 years sober at the time, so I went to bed sober and alone, not even knowing where my now husband was. I thought in the moment he just wanted to be social with people he hadn't seen in a while, but a couple of years later, and I've learned I was just never a priority to him. Divorce is hopefully being finalized soon. I knew of a girl who did this, but she didn't leave in the way you'd think. This was a South Asian wedding, so multiple events spread throughout the day. The day of the first event, they had a gathering planned at the bride's place. The bride's younger sister needed to be picked up from school, and since no one was available, the bride herself went to pick her up. On their way back, they got into an accident and both passed away. It was painful and sucked for everyone. Not exactly the day of the wedding, but close. They divorced a month later. Why? The groom left his wife for a waitress. A waitress from his own wedding. I was bartender at a wedding. Groom got crazy hammered. Even after I cut him off, he kept drinking other people's drinks. Later that night he made out with an also drunk bridesmaid, pretty much right in front of the bride. She slapped him hard and stormed out. It was trashy as fuck, and I loved it. Someone I know found out during the honeymoon that her new husband had been cheating on her with the maid of honor for months. It started because they all lived together, as the girls were best friends. Not me but a good friend. She went through the ceremony, then confessed she slept with the best man the night before. Marriage got annulled. She's been married to the best man for 27 years, and they are still madly in love. Feel bad for the guy she married, but nice it worked out. That's all folks. Thank you for watching. If you like videos like this one, why not like and subscribe for more? Have a nice evening.